I want to thank the testifiers, especially Director Carter and Commissioner Jessen. I know your intentions are extremely good. When I look at the governor's proposal, I do agree with parts of it. I like the Minnesota Reading Corps, to mention one. I understand the nutritional part of it, to mention another, just to mention a couple. But I do question some of the rest of it. And what I mean by that is you've done a good job of defining the problems, okay? And it seems like things are getting worse rather than better in many cases. But last year I was on the K-12 Finance Committee, which Representative Mark chaired and did an excellent job. And he tended to let me say what I wanted to say, no. Which maybe he regrets at this point. But anyway, Representative Pam Myra is on that committee, and of all the representatives that I'm aware of, she did extensive study on early childhood programs from Head Start to other programs, and looked at the research, went to meetings, and she consistently came back with that these pre-K programs, although there's an initial benefit to them, by the 5th or 6th grade, and this is off the top of my head, most of the benefit wears off. In terms of Head Start, there's been national studies done that show the same thing. One of my experts that I reference is Dr. John Brewer. Back in the late 1990s, he was on President Clinton's Council for Early Childhood Education. He was the only one to vote against the recommendations of that national council. Dr. Brewer is eminently well qualified to comment on early childhood. He wrote a book, The Myth of the First 3 Years. You can find it on the internet and order it. I have. And basically, Dr. Brewer has established the McConnell Pew program in cognitive neuroscience, a new mind-brain science that links neuroscience and psychology to the study of human cognition. He also developed the cognitive study for educational practices, supports application of cognitive science to improve educational outcomes, to name a few of his accomplishments. So he puts into question much of the so-called research to justify the expenditures of these millions and even billions of dollars nationwide on early childhood, and whether or not they're going to produce long-term beneficial results, especially on the achievement gap. Last session at the Educational Committee, I also presented 2 studies. One showed that if children were raised in a traditional 2-parent family, 90% of child poverty would be eliminated in our state and across the nation. Another study from the University of California showed that if children are raised in a 2-parent traditional family, the achievement gap would not only be reduced, it would be eliminated, just by having them raised in a 2-parent family. And finally, I would say that in terms of the reading literacy problem, I agree there's a huge problem. I did jail ministry for 13 years, jail ministry. I wasn't in jail, by the way. I did jail ministry for 13 years, and when we used to go around and read, guess what most of the prisoners couldn't do very well? They couldn't read. So a huge contributing problem to our prison population is the ability to not read properly, okay? I link that.
Representative Gruenhagen,
Yep.
so you know, I've got like probably 12 members on the list, so if you could get to your question, I'm sorry, I hate to cut you off, but.
You sound like my wife, to tell you the truth. I'm just about there, okay? Unless they ask me to repeat everything. No, what I found is that the promotion of whole language and basal literature in our public schools is, along with inventive spelling and creative writing, causes the majority of reading problems. Instead of teaching intensive systematic phonics, traditional spelling, and the teaching of grammar. So the point is, when I look at the governor's budget, I see much of the money is being what I consider to be misdirected in an area that is not going to result in solutions to the problems you so eloquently defined, and that money should be redirected towards support of the traditional family and emphasizing reading curriculums that actually have empirical evidence that work rather than the whole language hoax that's currently being promoted to our children in the inner city and public schools across this state and nation. Would you care to respond to that?
Who wants to take a crack? Commissioner.
Madam Chair, Representative Gruenhagen, let me at least address the pre-K part. And I'll defer on the broader education comments to the Department of Education. And I haven't read the studies you referred to, but I wrote the names down, and I'll go and look them up. But I have been really heartened by the important work done here, led by R-Glenco, about just this, showing the value, just even if you're just looking at dollars, of investing in pre-kindergarten. And that has really, been very important, I think, to me. I know to the governor. Now, that's not to say, I kind of read his article in MinPost today. I mean, I know R-Glenco would have different priorities, perhaps, but I think the research that he talks about the importance of pre-K is very evidence-based. But I will look at the articles that you reference.
Thank you.
Ms. Burnham?
Madam Chair, Representative, thank you for your comments. I think a couple things. I think it's important to remember that the reason we're all sitting up here in a united front is that we are addressing a 0 to age 8 comprehensive early learning system. And you made mention of what we call the fade-out effect. So part of our priority as a coordinated system is to address the needs from birth through grade 3. So part of that is looking at ensuring high quality and alignment persists from the pre-K, from the preschools through pre-K through grade kindergarten on up. So that's part of our responsibility to work with districts and programs to ensure that level of quality. And I think the literacy, we feel strongly in the legislation around Read Well by 3rd grade and the work that districts are doing with their local literacy plans. And we continue to work with districts to even think adding that pre-K, that 4-year-old, into that mix. So they're thinking comprehensively, whether it's literacy, math, social, emotional, across that 0 to 8 learning domain, and guarantee that level of quality through 3rd grade. And that is going to reduce or maybe even eliminate that fade-out effect you're referring to.
Mr. Carter?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Representative Gruenhagen. I appreciate the comment because it really highlights exactly what we're saying, which is that all things have to work together in alignment. As Ms. Burnham just pointed out, we certainly know that 3rd grade reading is really a critical benchmark, and we know that children who are not ready to read at grade level by the end of 3rd grade are most likely never going to catch up. There are exceptions, but that's the real kind of place that we really need to be focused on. We know that children who are ready for kindergarten are much more likely to be reading at grade level by 3rd grade, but that's not without additional investment. To me, the statement that the benefits of Head Start fade out is an acknowledgement that Head Start has some strong benefits, and that's true. I think there has to be some continued investments in children as we move forward, and those investments, like we talked about, have to be aligned across ages. The other thing I would say is, so when we talk about all the investments that we're doing to make sure that children are ready for kindergarten, it has to be followed up, you're absolutely right, with additional investments to make sure that we maintain the advantage that we gain. It also has to be preceded, which is why we're focusing on babies and children. And I'd point you back to Ms. Thiebel's presentation about evidence-based family home visiting, which has actually been proven to reduce that fade-out effect as well.
All right, thank you.